So we will call this meeting to order. Are you taking notes today? Or Mary's on her way in? Okay, well, we'll let her set up while we're doing flag salute and stuff like that. So there is a quorum present, and we'll do the flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we actually have 5 minutes until the public hearing officially starts. So we actually need to wait for that time. So I'll give Mary some time to set up. And
we could do additions to the agenda.
yeah, so I'll just do 3.0, which is additions, revisions to the agenda. And we have 2 additions. One is for the road department, the Federal Lands Access Program Project Memorandum of Agreement. And then Commissioner Wilkins had requested that we discuss the Grain Lab and a potential temporary lease of that. Any other additions? I'll put those both under new business. Okay. We still have some time. We're like 4 minutes ahead of schedule, so maybe I'll just go right into correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at any other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. Any public comments? Okay. Under correspondence, I do not have any. Where are we at now? We still have 3 minutes. You think we can get through the consent agenda in 3 minutes? Okay.
I move we approve the consent agenda. A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of March bills pending review, consider approval of March 13th work session minutes, consider approval of March 20th work session minutes, consider approval of March 20th regular meeting minutes, appoint Deb Wilkins to replace Catherine Briner as the city's representative on the Lower John Day Area Commission on Transportation, and consider approval of Transportation Department's STIF grant application. Is there further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. I don't think we can get into unfinished business, so I'm going to wait 2 minutes and let Mary catch up to us. And we'll just relax for about 90 seconds and so that we're actually following along.
Anybody got a joke?
Not one I can tell here.
Come on, we're all adults.
Is
Turn the camera on.
anybody interested in testifying during the weed assessment hearing? Nobody? Think about it. You got 90 seconds. Give it some thought. Nobody?
Federal Lands Access Program grant, the road department. Discussion added, and also adding the discussion on a potential lease agreement.
Are we just going to do that?
Yeah.
Lease.
I got my 2 keys.
So you'll do the first and the second.
Ready.
That would work.
Just making sure.
Although I missed the last one, so.
You're good. That one we didn't need motions really. So this one actually.
No, we didn't.
That's the other shop.
But I missed the 2 It lasted about 5 minutes. So.
I had correct.
That's the standard down on
That was about
this
it.
Thank you, Richard.
No, I'm sorry to miss it.
Steps in
I'm sure you were.
So
what did you go to Seattle? Seattle.
And you're going to it's like,
I think they appreciate the speed.
went to church, David and I went to church where my parents went to St. Thomas More. It's up towards.
Okay, we are at 1:05. So we are going to move right into the public hearing for fiscal year 2019-2020 Gilliam County Weed Control Special Assessment. This is the time duly set and advertised for a public hearing in the matter of the Gilliam County Weed Control Special Assessment for fiscal year 2019-2020. The rate for the 2019-2020 year has been proposed at 7 cents per acre. Hearings are conducted in accordance with ORS 569.175 through 569.620. This hearing is for the purpose of gathering evidence as to the need for, identifying who will benefit from, and to take public input on the special weed assessment rate. This is a legislative hearing. All those in attendance that wish to testify are asked to sign the attendance sheet. The hearing is now open. We had our staff report during the Arlington portion of the hearing, and so now we'll move into accepting public testimony. So is there anybody in the audience who would like to provide public testimony? Do not see any, so we'll move into closing the hearing. So the hearing is hereby closed. And then we'll move into first reading of the ordinance.
I move to have the first reading of ordinance number 2019-01 by title only. I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to have the first reading of the ordinance 2019-01 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so Judge will read this. Ordinance number 2019-01 in the county court for the state of Oregon for Gilliam County in the matter of an ordinance for a special weed assessment within Gilliam County.
I move to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2019-01 by title only. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of ordinance 2019-01 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so then we will have the second reading at the next,
The 17th.
on the 17th. Anything else from us, staff?
No, I think I took care of it for me.
All right. So with that, we will go right on ahead to unfinished business. First thing up is the Frontier Telenet update. We had another regular meeting of the Frontier Telenet Board last Monday, I believe now. Kind of all blurring together over in Sherman County. Let's see, big takeaways. Judge Birch has officially resigned as the financial person. That will be effective April 30th. And so currently Brenda Snow Potter is handling the budget process for us. The budget hearing itself will take place on Friday, this coming Friday, here in Condon, in the courthouse. Let me think of other big things that
Did the board appoint her to be the budget officer?
She was appointed as a budget officer. She was not actually officially appointed as the fiscal person. That appears to have just been kind of moved over without really the board doing that. And so that's something we're going to need to go back and actually formalize.
Do you know who's on your budget committee?
It is obviously the three county judges and then 3 sheriffs.
Did they get reappointed yet?
They were appointed. And I know there was some pushback, I've heard from some folks in the community who thought they should be lay people. And I hear that sort of feedback. One of the things that I thought was significant is that the draft budget that came out has a substantial request from the 911 board, as in like about, I think 3 times or 4 times the number that they've been previously asked for. And so I thought So normally the 911 board, Frontier 911, I think pays about $100,000 a year to Frontier Telenet. The request right now in the proposed budget is at $400,000. Obviously, Frontier 911 would need to agree to pay that amount and be actually able to pay that amount, which is still an open question about whether 911 tax dollars can be used for that purpose. So there's a lot. The proposed budget is up on Frontier Telenet's website for those who are out in the public and interested. One of the other significant changes is a lot of the administrative stuff we have started to farm out to the board members. And so I raised my hand to update the website and take care of that piece, since that's what I used to do before I became judge. And so there's certain administrative things that we've kind of raised our hand for. One of them is that since Frontier Telenet rotates between the counties, that we would start handling the agenda similar to how we handle Tri-County Court, which is whoever's the host county then is in charge of the agenda and getting that out and making sure it's distributed on time. So Gilliam County will be the host, I believe, for the next meeting. So that should help, hopefully, on getting those agendas out in time for people in a more timely fashion than what has been happening previously.
And everybody will be able to get them out to all the interested parties?
I sure hope so. I have the list of interested parties, and I am happy actually to raise my hand to help make sure that happens. Other than that, there was some questions, ongoing questions about Jim Deason's invoices. They still are not showing up in the financials, and so I asked just point blank, where are his invoices? And he said he would need to get back to me.
So he hasn't billed yet?
He has not billed.
Does he have a reason why he's not billing? What is his agenda here?
His reason is that he has been too busy to bill.
Oh my goodness.
My understanding is that, from what I can tell, that he has not billed in over a year. So, and you can see when you go look at the proposed budget, there's a significant line item in there now for legal expenses that I think has got to be probably his invoices, but I have not seen a single invoice from him, although I have asked numerous times for an update. And there have been multiple public information requests for it. So I don't know. I don't know what happens when you have a lawyer that refuses to tell you how much you owe him.
I guess we don't owe him anything.
I guess not.
That would be my answer to him. If you can't invoice, then sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not paying him.
Yeah. So
Forget it.
the other thing just to note, right now it's looking like the county's contributions would be around $150,000 each. But the budget included payments for the digital switch, which I think we're going to need to, as a board, decide whether we want to continue to upgrade that, because it's $250,000. It's a pretty good chunk of the budget. There was also Wheeler County's loan payment in there. And to me, it was not clear I haven't seen how we're going to pay back Sherman County's loan, and it was not accounted for within the budget.
Well, did Sherman County have a deadline that was rapidly approaching?
It was the end of the fiscal year, but I haven't seen any plan for how we're going to pay it back within the fiscal year. So
And would that have been budgeted? They have a line in there
It-
from last year's budget?
Well, we did a supplemental.
Okay. That's right.
It's a mess. It continues to be a mess. Yeah. So the other thing that you should be aware of, I think I noted it before, but I'll continue to remind, is that I have been suggesting that we need to start talking about if there's a reason for Frontier Telenet to still exist. If it ends up with the fiber line coming in, if we have all of our private sector folks that were using just the internet side of it, if they all switch to fiber, which is not Frontier Telenet's system, and what we're left with is an emergency communications system, if it still makes sense to have two separate boards controlling budgets where you can actually probably have some cost savings in having one entity where you have one lawyer looking at the system, one lawyer. Yeah. So I think Judge DeBolskas did not necessarily shut that down, but wanted to see kind of how quickly fiber rolls out, and wanted a transition plan, basically, if we were gonna go away from frontier telenet. So, anyway, that's kind of the update. It was a long meeting, and so I'm sure I've missed some things, but I think those were kind of the highlights for that.
Okay.
Questions about?
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yeah. It's an exercise in patience, so.
Oh, maybe it's a good thing I missed.
All right. Okay, so let's do review solicited proposals and select IT contractor. So Kelly went out and solicited proposals from 5 companies. Got the list of those there, and her recommendation was Actex Solutions proposal. One thing to note in here is that these proposals are meeting the day-to-day needs of IT. There is a bigger need that is not captured within these proposals. That is a rebuilding of the servers and a kind of disentangling from the system that has supported all of the counties simultaneously. They're all kind of interconnected. And we kind of talked about that in budget this morning a little bit, is that the anticipation is that we're going to need to remain with ESD for a portion of the time because because their network is interconnected with all of ours anyway, but 2, because they actually understand how all those connections work, so that we don't have a situation where our IT goes in and accidentally brings the other counties offline on accident. So all the school districts are wrapped in it. I mean, and all 3 counties are wrapped into it. So I just wanted to kind of say that, put that on the record, is that what we're talking about today is the day-to-day needs of the courthouse and our facilities, basically keeping IT up and running. The larger project on the server is going to be an additional cost that we'll need to look at down the road.
So once we select a company and put that contract in place, then are all of these companies aware that that is the big,
Yes, it was part of
and
the
that they'll
scope
have
of
to bid
work.
for that too?
And they all came out to the courthouse and toured our facilities. One of them actually even went to Arlington to see the Justice Court and the Sheriff's Office there and the library, and they checked out everything. And we discussed our network as I understand it, which I don't understand it quite at their level.
Nobody does. Yeah, well,
But we talked about how they'd have to work with the ESD, to figure out how it's set up now and how to safely pull away and set it up in a more logical fashion. The way it's done now has been kind of antiquated for a while, and everybody keeps saying we need to change it, but nobody's taken that step yet. So every bid did include an hourly rate.
Mhm. And so that's what that would fall under then?
And that would fall under their hourly rate, or we could ask them to submit just a overall bid for that project rather than charge it out hourly. But they were all made aware of that as a pending project.
So then our intent is, go ahead, Dewey.
Were they aware of the road and weed department?
Yep.
Because we're remotely.
Yeah,
Okay, so I
Yep.
don't think anybody came and looked at.
we did, nobody was there.
Oh.
We just let ourselves in and looked
Okay.
around. They were shocked by the security we have here.
I'm sure.
They really liked your answering machine too, or the weed department answering. They thought that was great.
And what year was it established?
The weed department's
department's
answering
answering
machine? It
machine?
doesn't have a tape, it is a digital answering
Oh,
machine.
well, there you go.
But it's still
So we're maybe into the
a little
2000s
outdated.
for it. Does anybody have questions for Kelly on, I mean, she has a recommendation in here, but did anybody have questions about just any other proposals or?
I think you did a good job.
I think you did a
This is pretty
fabulous job.
thorough and.
And what pushed you towards,
Part of it was price. I mean, if you look at some of the other ones,
That was
there,
my-
especially grad comp.
where I always look for?
And we do work, I've done work with them.
And I was really
Kinda hoping
impressed
it'd be a little-
with their sales pitch.
Right.
But the price kind of scared me.
Yeah, they were spending.
And then I got some reviews from people that said that support wasn't always as fast from Rad Comp and Solutions. So that kind of put me down between Wasco County and AgTech. AgTech had great reviews from other counties that I talked to and school districts, so they know county business. And Wasco County obviously knows county business. What held me back from them, they were my second choice, but they haven't provided services to another county yet. We'd be their guinea pig. And I'm not sure I want to be a guinea pig. I think they do a great job. They were a little higher priced because they don't provide those services yet, but it's something they're considering branching out into.
I think the recommendation looks pretty good.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agreement for managed IT services with ATS, which is AdTech Solutions, and in the amount of an annual cost of $45,725 and a monthly fee of $3,810.42. And then in the future, we will need to contract for the transfer over of the information.
For the server.
Yeah, for the technology hardware item in the budget for the current fiscal year. In future fiscal years, will be charged IT services contract line item.
Okay.
I will second that.
Okay, good one, Sherry.
Thanks.
So it has been moved and seconded to approve the agreement for managed IT services with ATS AgTech Solutions in the amount of an annual cost of $45,725, which breaks out to $3,810.42 per month, to be taken and let me finish this. To be taken out of the technology hardware line item in the budget for the current fiscal year. Expenses future fiscal years will be charged the IT services contract line item, and that we will be negotiating our additional costs for the server piece of that. Did I capture that?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
What was the monthly cost?
The monthly was $3,810.42. So annual cost is $45,725. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you much. Hard work.
Okay, so moving on. That was a good motion, Sherry.
Oh, I know, I got in the middle of it and then thought, oh, I want to add that.
Okay, let's move on to new business. 7.1, consider request for Mormon cricket control funding. Jordan, do you want me to?
Sure, if you want to just, and then I can just sign in.
Okay,
Yep.
so, as you guys know from looking at the budget, that we have never actually budgeted for the Mormon cricket control funding as a line item. The previous court took it up to $105,000 out of SIP discretionary, and we did it on a reimbursable basis. So, OSU, so Jordan would look at those, did the bidding piece of it, got the pilot, went out for 3 bids, did all of that piece, and then the invoices are sent directly to us and we pay those as how they've done it in the past. The situation is that they have that they're starting the process now of, well, the crickets are hatching, basically, to put it bluntly, and it's time to address them again this year. And as we don't have something in the budget specifically for it, they're coming back to ask for us for an allocation of up to $105,000, which is what the previous court allocated Last year, you spent maybe, what, 65 of that or so?
I believe it was, yeah.
So, and again, it's on a reimbursable basis, so it'll just be what the actual cost is. And if we wanted to do it, we would likely take it out of the SIP discretionary line item for the current 2018-19 fiscal year. It's just the previous one came out of the fiscal year previous to us, so we don't have the authority anymore to just take it.
Okay,
Questions for Jordan or April?
you're finding them, they're out there.
We went and scouted the last Saturday, and then I took yesterday off and went and did that. And we put out pitfall traps, which were recommended by Paul Gilliam from the USDA. And what they are is just basically test tubes. We put holes in the ground and put them where we think that they're gonna hatch. And we try to get on what date. I check them every 3 days, go around the countryside and check them. And hopefully then we'll get some, so we'll know kind of when they're hatching, what stage they're in. They kind of just want to see if these work. So Rita Misiak and Jim Wright and I went out yesterday and put some of those in and put them up behind the deli. They are hatching in what was the county, I think Eva Kilkenny just purchased the property, and there's probably 5 to 10 a square yard there, which isn't huge,
Yeah.
which I'm kind of glad about that, but we haven't been out on Philippi's place yet. So hopefully I'll get a chance one of these evenings to go out there and look some more. But it looks like, I'm hoping, thinking positive, that our efforts are working. There's still places that weren't sprayed. Rattlesnake, were across from the crusher. We had a ton last year, and we walked and walked and walked that, and even though yesterday was a little bit cold, we didn't find anything. Up on top we did, where the spray plane didn't hit, but, so I don't know. I mean, either we're catching them because of our late winter, we're catching them early, and they haven't all hatched out yet. So we'll see in 7 days when I walk the hill behind the deli to see what they are then too. And Paul Blom also said that he probably would be able to send 2 scouts out again this year. We had a meeting in Arlington, and that was a huge help for us because, you know, I kind of work a normal job, so obviously they can't be out there all the time, and they're out during the day. So, but we have, you know, Jim Wright, he said he would volunteer this year, so that helps too. Yeah.
Remind me,
So
where
looking
did the county, where did the disbursements go to? Who do we write the checks to?
So, I think the bulk of them actually is for the pilot, for the,
So they're not going to another entity like the extension, or we're paying the bills directly?
correct. Yeah, so basically the way the partnership has worked is that, that Jordan has done the process of identifying the pilot and figuring out, you know, what's actually needed in terms of the chemicals and things like that. And then, so we kind of work in concert, and then those individuals that are hired then bill us directly. So those invoices, and do they come to you first normally? Is that
Yeah,
what
I
they were?
look them over to make sure that they're appropriate and it goes to the county.
Do we anticipate the city of Arlington asking us for any money, and would that come out of this pool?
I believe they still have funds left from the 10,000, was it? April?
I think that they do still have some funding left. When I've talked to them, they have not said anything about them coming forward and asking for any funding. Cameron Krebs had said that he would possibly bring some sheep in. We could do that. They could do that hillside again. On the 17th, I have asked Gary if they would bring the Northcore work crew in to spray that hillside. So it would give it a little time for them to hatch. They'd be the right age, be perfect timing for them to come in, and because I don't really want to get up there with the backpack sprayer myself. So
Don't blame you, that's a steep hill.
yeah, it is. So the North Core guys would come in and they would spray that hillside. So that's the city of Arlington. Bill was buying those backpack sprayers, so I believe that they do still have some money. I don't think that they will come in, but I kind of wondered why Arlington couldn't just, instead of them coming at another time, if there's some extra cost, why they couldn't just talk to Jordan about that. So I kind of wondered the same thing you did.
You just reminded me of something else too. As far as like people spraying outside their own property, does that require like a pesticide applicator's license? Something like that?
It doesn't if you're doing tempo in town, so out in the areas where you're using the Demolin, obviously you have to have a pesticide license for that. But the tempo, which is like a food grade spray that you can buy on Amazon or anywhere else, or Marta is going to carry it at Arlington Hardware. You don't have to have an applicator's license, but we need to get the approval of the landowner. So like I had texted Brian Wilkins last night about talking to Eva about spraying on her property because that's where we saw.
Okay. I was curious. I've had people ask me that question before, and I was, good question. So we may be thinking we might see sheep this year instead of goats?
Possibly. I think Bill's working on that. I haven't heard anything more, just that we talked once last week and then once at the meeting about it. And so he was going to talk to Cameron, so I don't know what he's heard yet. But that would be nice, because it is really nice to have that all cleared off, to get up there and try to do something this year, and actually see something, because you couldn't see anything up there really before.
Good fire protection too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where the school did burn, and I don't know if this makes any difference or not, where they did burn last year and there was crickets pretty bad there isn't one cricket on that burn site. Not that I think everything should be lit on fire. That
Depends on how bad the crickets get.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yes. You're welcome.
So what are we thinking? Is there,
Do we need, what kind of action
so
do
we would
to
need
take?
a motion to authorize up to, if we wanted to authorize up to the $105,000 for Mormon cricket control to be taken from the SIP discretionary line item. And then we just handle it on a reimbursable basis. I don't know that, I think we've captured probably well enough in the public record that it would be on a reimbursable basis, but if you want to add that as well in the motion, then we would want to do that as well. Do you want me to make the motion?
You kind of just did.
Okay, so I would move to allocate up to $105,000 out of the SIP discretionary line item for Mormon cricket control, with the invoices to be sent directly to the county to be paid directly.
A second.
Do we have to say, no, never mind. I think we said that already. Do we need to say, I just didn't know if you wanted to include reimbursable basis, or do you think that's already been covered pretty well?
I think by saying
I don't
yes.
think it's necessary, because we're paying it ourselves. It's not like we're giving it to someone and then they're paying it.
Thank you. Yes, that makes sense.
Do we want to include anything about the city of Arlington? If they need money, then this is where they need to go, or do we just want to kind of?
I think the motion is probably broad enough that we have flexibility if somebody else comes in.
Or we can tell them to.
They need to talk to Jordan.
Yeah, okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we allocate up to $105,000 from the SIP discretionary line item for Mormon cricket control, with the invoices to be sent directly to the county for payment. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can I ask one more question?
Uh-huh.
Would this ever be something that, that you might want to look at as putting in the budget?
We didn't talk
Aren't you
about
going to kill them all?
I'm trying. I'm trying,
That brings
but-
a good question that I forgot earlier. How many times do you think this request is going to come back?
We don't really know.
We talked
we
about it
can't-
this morning.
And there's not enough studies done, I mean, that's why we're trying to do studies at the same time that we're working this out. We're working with, you know, a guy in Montana, and so we don't really know how long it's gonna happen.
So it's not like maybe the 7-year thing?
Well, they say, you know, 6 to 7 years, but we don't know that for sure. And I'm kind of, oh man, I'm really wanting to get out there in Philippi, because I really would like to see what's in Jones Canyon this year compared to what we had last year. And if, you know, if our spraying is really doing some good, because if it's anything what I saw yesterday, it is really doing some good, and we can get it down to manageable numbers. But we got them still popping out, they're all over Fifth Street. So we still have them in town, yeah. They're not like popcorn quite like they were last year, but they're still, that's where their patching beds were, because they were moving into town right there.
There was, I was gonna say, there was definitely interest in the budget committee this morning of making sure that we were setting aside funds. So I'm thinking, rather than create a new line item.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my response as a budget officer would.
That we just, because it comes out of SIP discretionary anyway, and that's where a lot of the grants are coming, that we are just basically creating a list of our expectations for what's gonna be funded out there, and that the crickets would be one of those, even though it's not an actual grant.
This is actually kind of for April, but you know, you were talking about where the school burned. You know, we also had that windmill fire out there, and so if you wanted to kind of judge what the fire was like, that might be a good place to look.
And so I went there,
Okay.
and they weren't as heavy. There was only, I mean, we walked that whole thing there, and I probably saw maybe 15. I think Rita caught 9 of them. So, you know, so I mean, it wasn't, I was hoping there would be anything, but there were still some. Yeah. But the schooler was, but it wasn't burned down to like the school was. The school had nothing for them to eat. There's no vegetation at all where they burned. So
to answer the question on the budget, my hope is that we'll go ahead during the budget process next week, designate that a portion of the SIP will go toward
Okay.
it, so that you don't have to come back and ask.
okay, because that was my question, if we needed to do an RFP for next year, or, you know, we'd need to get on our ball a little quicker. But by September, we're tired of crickets, right?
Cool, anything else on crickets? Are we cricketed out? Okay. Let's move on to 7.2. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you, April. 7.2, consider request from South Gilliam County Health District for donation of surplus vehicle.
So they must have decided it would be okay.
Yeah, so it sounds like, and as a reminder for folks in the audience, this was the Dodge Caravan that was surplus by the previous court but received no bids. So it's already gone through the surplus process. There wasn't an interest in it. And so the South Gilliam Health District is interested, if we were willing to donate it as is, they are willing to accept it. And there's an email from Holly Winslow to that effect. This first page or second page in this part of the packet.
And this was surplus all the way back in 2017, so it's been sitting there for quite a while.
What do you guys think?
I think we should,
They want.
yeah.
They have a need for it. I
Go
don't know
for it.
why we would hold on to it. So
And do we need a
I
motion?
think we would need a motion to donate the vehicle.
Okay, I move we donate the 2005 Dodge Caravan to the South Gilliam County Health District.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we donate the 2005 Dodge Caravan to the South Gilliam County Health District. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, consider 7.3, consider Port of Arlington release of funds request. Okay, one more invoice came in. This one is in the amount of $1,472.79.
29.
Oops, 29 cents. This thing, so 79
Oh, never mind, I got it in two different
on
places
the
here.
amount.
79, sorry.
And this is for the consultants who put this together to come out to present the findings of the feasibility study. So I was, again, it's over this at 17,000 at this point. During our last meeting, we sort of said that that was it.
Yeah, well, that's what we were told, that the last one was it. Now we have more. You're gonna pull something else out of your hat?
I don't anticipate any more coming
Okay,
out of my
well,
hat.
don't anticipate any more money.
So this was for the work session, and the one that you were at. And for this first study phase, right now, the project's evolving into trying to find water rights. And so if it goes beyond that, and we, take it to a deeper level of the project, we could be back looking for additional support from the court in moving the project forward.
But if the project were not to move forward, this would be it.
This would be it.
So
From these engineers.
would you consider that phase 2 as opposed to this is phase 1?
You could call it phase 2. It's just, the first phase, the order of magnitude was looking at the economic feasibility of putting in a project. And it looks favorable enough to a portion of the farmers that they are interested in pursuing it further. And so if we can find water rights to be able to do it, then they would look at being able to move the project forward. That is, of course, county court would support that. But at this point, we don't, we're not there yet. We're not ready to, make the next step up. It's all groundwork now. We're field work and talking to the city of Arlington on their water right, talking to the state on water rights, and so it hasn't required further engineering or further study at this point.
What is remind me, because I can't remember, but what do you think the port will be requesting from the city as far as the water right?
So the city has a water right for about 8.3 cubic feet a second of water out of the river. And so what the irrigation committee is asking the city is, now that we've completed the study, it looks promising, will you lease or will you sell your water right? And the city has to make that decision.
So when you say sell, that means forever?
Yes, if it was a lease, it could be like a 5 or, and then the city has seemed to have indicated they were not interested in selling the water right, but leasing it. And the farmers, of course, the longer the lease term, the more, they can, it's very difficult to spend the kind of money they're looking to spend. It's about $5,000 an acre for capital costs to put this project in. But it's very difficult to spend that kind of money if you only have a water right for 5 years. So they're looking to be able to capitalize that investment over a longer term. So we don't know, but there are some potential water rights with the state, and we're pursuing those as well. And when you go to the state level, the Arlington right is really interesting because they have a water right at Willow Creek and a site that can move the project forward fairly quickly, because then all it becomes to be able to use the water right is to certificate it, and then the project takes off. But with the state, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, and they have a lot of hoops that we'd have to jump through, and they have to do biological, ecological studies, all kinds of stuff that they might throw at us before we can acquire those rights. But there would be substantially more water rights
state level.
Sure. We're taking notes.
Well, there were 17, the study area encompassed 17 different farmer landowners that were, involved with it, which is, I was really pleasantly surprised at how much and how strong an interest that we had from the farm group. And so,
Do you still have that much interest after they saw the study and how much it was going to cost
well,
for those smaller acres?
the stronger interest is at the lower elevations, because the cost of the water, the maintenance cost, is not, it costs about the same no matter where they're at to put the system in. It's around $5,000 an acre, $4,500, something like that. This is in a gross basis over there. But the lower elevations have a lower energy cost, obviously, and so in those areas, much more viable project and a lot stronger interest. When you get up to higher elevations, the cost of operating and maintaining the system is a little more substantial. But they're able to six-fold their production, so it's a real challenge.
One thing I guess I don't know is how many farmers are there that are benefiting from it? Are they all from Gilliam County? Is it a Morrow County? Because it's on Willow Creek, right? So it's going to be both counties.
Yeah, our project, the 17 farmers that I just mentioned, they're all Gilliam County. So our study area was limited to only Gilliam County landowners. We did not go beyond that. Clearly, and the portion of the group of farmers that came to us, the port, that asked for the port's help in facilitating this project, a good portion of them were in Morrow County. But we did not, in this study, we did not consider trying to irrigate any of that land at this time.
And has Morrow County or the Port of Morrow showed any interest?
I had conversations with Gary Neal. Of course, Gary's since retired, but they're supportive of the project in general, and had conversations with the Soil and Water Office, and they were supportive of the project. They had done a similar kind of project at the other end of Willow Creek, where they just ran an irrigation pipe down from Willow Lake, and the farmers are tapping into it, and the farmers love it because it's all gravity fed, and they get high pressure out of the pipe, so they don't have to run any pumps, because they were letting the water out in the creek, and then they were irrigating from the creek and irrigating their land. Now they can do it with a pressurized pipe. So it's a really nice system for the farmers that are using that. So they've done a lot of homework as far as for that pipe project to go through, a lot of the environmental and ecological studies, and so they'll be very helpful if we go across the county line, but we did not look at anything. We drew a line in the sand, on the other side we didn't look at it. So, but there's a big problem there at Willow Creek. There's a lot of siltation in that, what do we call that bay?
Willow Pool.
The Willow Creek Pool. There's a lot of sediment in there, and it keeps gumming up all the irrigation intakes, and they have to dredge it out. And by putting the straw in the main river channel, it'll eliminate a lot of that problem that these farmers are having. And they're flat running out of water right when they need to finish off the crop. And so it's very challenging to farm in that environment. And then, as you've probably seen or heard, you had left the meeting, but the farmers were reporting, an 8 Mile, that, they're running out of water, not only running out of irrigation water, they're running out of household water. And it's a real problem, and by pulling water out of the river, the farmers will have a more reliable source of water. They can grow a full season crop, and then they have a tremendous opportunity to rotate crops and bring in a diversified amount of crops, and there's a big need for it in the area.
But of course, the irrigation's not gonna solve the house water problem. It's not
Well,
gonna be drinkable.
it will in the sense that what you're trying to, if you were irrigating from Columbia River water in there, in a sense, you'll be recharging that aquifer because, about a third of that water goes back to the river. It goes back to the water system, whatever the plants can't take up, it makes it back in there. But so it'll help build that water table back up.
I just thought of something else, and I've asked this question before, but we have new court members now. What happens to this project if the city of Arlington is not interested in leasing their water right?
Well, it certainly will take it a longer time frame to get off the ground, because now we'll have to find water rights from the state. And that in and of itself can be a challenge, because there's a lot of people that don't think that we should pull any water out of the river. It's eased up a
Well, you're
little.
gonna have a huge environmental fight.
Maybe,
Morrow County's
maybe,
done that, but
yeah.
only because they're recharging groundwater.
Right.
I mean, they're not anticipating what we're proposing.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would get the folks who are there for the fishes to be, the salmon folks are gonna
There's,
gum it up. I mean, to be
Well,
blunt, I can't see.
it's certainly possible, but if if in Oregon, they don't allow more pulling of the water from the Columbia, then a lot of these farms that are in this Columbia or the Umatilla Basin, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Because the groundwaters, you have the Ella Butte is one of the groundwater, what's the term they have for it's a non-attainment area or whatever. None of the farmers can drill any wells in that groundwater restricted area. And our farmers are seeing it. Even the ones that have water rights, they're irrigating from wells. They're drilling deeper and deeper into the aquifers, and these wells are going deeper, and they're not able to keep that water flowing through the full growing season. And so by pumping water out of the Columbia River, we have a chance to let these aquifers fill back up.
I get that, but I don't think you're gonna sell that.
Well, they're having some success in selling it, and J.R. Cook has probably been instrumental in that in Eastern Oregon, the NAWA group. But they have been selling that idea, and it's working. And environmentalists are agreeing to some degree and allowing for more water to be pulled out of the river.
But I thought they were only doing that because there's a swap that's happening.
It's part of that whole equation. They're not pulling the well water out. And our farmers would do something similar if they had reliable water that they could count on coming out of the river. They may not pull it out of these very deep wells that they're pulling it out of.
I don't know.
So anyway, what we have on the agenda today is, are we going to fund this last portion of the feasibility study, which is $1,472.79.
What do you guys think?
Well,
One of my concerns is that this is just gonna keep
in my motion.
going and going and going. The previous court gave you a cap. That was a pretty clear cap, and so I'm not sure.
Well, and I'm confused because, you'd had that meeting, and you knew it was gonna cost money, but you told us that the $487 was was the final payment. Or is there something else you're gonna come up with that's gonna cost more money
Again, we do not.
because you don't know?
We don't anticipate any more.
That's what you said the
funds.
last time.
Well, this particular deal is, we thought that they would be providing, that they would come and present their findings, and that wasn't it wasn't in their scope of work. So they were just gonna give us a report, and it's a pretty dense thing. I mean, it was very helpful to have the engineers come in and walk the port board and all the farmers through, and the community, because we invited the Arlington City Council as well to attend, and to walk through what the assumptions were in this. And if you read the report, it's pretty dense. There's a lot of footnotes in there, and it just really, really helped all of us to more fully understand what was in that study. And so we felt it was a good use of resources, and so the farmers and the community could better understand all the numbers and how they arrived at these numbers in this process. And, you know, it's $1,400, but I think it was money well spent. And we started with a $100,000 budget, and I think we've done pretty good at not spending that much money and trying to arrive at, you know, some reasonable estimates and cost figures and analysis that the farmers now have a much stronger idea of what it takes to put in a system and to pull water out of the river. And this is a base industry, and it can really do a lot for our farm community and being able to grow crops. And you've seen in the report that there's a lot of economic activity that comes out of when you intensify agriculture.
It was a good presentation, very informative.
I don't know. I will just throw out there that I feel pretty strongly that when we give folks a budget, that they need to stick to it. And it's not that it's not money worth spending, but it wasn't asked of the court to spend the money prior to spending it. I mean, you knew when they came out that you were going to hit the cap, because the previous court knew that you were.
Well, and we're still drawing on funds that were allocated out of the 2017-2018 budget.
And that's where I am.
The next last item, and then the next last item, and the next last item.
Thoughts, Leslie?
I have a question, but I'm getting off topic again.
Okay, we need
Can I ask one more question?
Okay.
Just one?
Okay, geez, hurry up.
River rights. Is it possible for you guys to use a river right that's, say, farther down the river?
It's one of the several questions that we're asking, because you know, there are some, for example, the John Day River flows into the Umatilla Lake, or the Umatilla Lake, the John Day Pool. And so if we have a right to pull out of the John Day, say, you know, at the lake pool level, can we use that and pull out up at Willow Creek? And I don't know that, it seemed to me it's out of the same lake pool, you should be able to, but.
Well, I was just wondering about, and I was wondering, so different counties, could you, I'm just wondering if you could buy a water rate from, say, Klickitat County.
There has been quite a bit of that's gone on in the state. But I am not an expert in that field to be able to answer that question completely or accurately.
Okay, you can go back to your the topic at hand.
Okay, so we want your opinion.
But we want your opinion on it.
Because we both expressed ours.
Make a motion.
If you like. The other option is to not pay it.
Well, I move we pay the $1,472.79 for the end of this feasibility study with the understanding that this is the last payment of the allocated $100,000 from the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget towards this project. Final answer, final payment.
I'll
No
second.
more, no more surprises.
Are you done?
Yes.
I'll second.
Okay, hold on, I'll take that. Okay, so it has been moved and seconded to approve payment of the invoice for an amount of $1,472.79 with the stipulation that this is the absolute final payment for the Phase 1 portion that was allocated out of the 2017-2018 budget. Did I capture that?
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so let's go on to consider acceptance of compensation committee recommendation for elected officials' salaries for fiscal year 2019-2020. So this is basically just a letter from Wally Powell on compensation committee. I'll just read it so that it's in the record. The compensation committee thanks the court for allowing us the opportunity to review the salaries of elected officials. It is the recommendation of the Gilliam County Compensation Committee that the elected officials of Gilliam County, Oregon receive a pay increase of 3%. That's CPI index, that's the COLA, and step changes following the current schedule appropriate for their time served. Best regards, Walter Powell, Gilliam County Compensation Committee Chair. So, and I don't know if this is normally handled, if we all need to declare conflicts. So just to be safe.
I wondered, we have it in the past. but
Yeah,
I've always wondered about that.
Just to be safe, I think and because one of those happens to be your son as well. So I will go ahead and declare a conflict since I obviously am one of those elected officials that would receive the 3% COLA increase. Do you guys want to declare? Or are you guys good?
Well, now that you have.
It's okay.
We don't have any,
State law says we still need to vote on it because if we are conflicted out, we still are legally able to do that. So.
what happens to it?
We just say it and then we still vote on it.
Yeah. You're just declaring it, so it's on the record that you would receive it and that Chet would receive it for you, Sherry.
I will declare that as well, but I'm also going to check, I'd like to check with other counties and see what, because they obviously do this every year as well, and see what they're.
Well, my biggest conflict then, and that I would declare, is that my son is a elected official.
Mhm.
But not yourself.
And you too.
And myself.
It doesn't really, legally, I've already checked with ethics, and if there's if conflicts would cause us to lose a quorum of the court, that allows us to be able to vote on it. So
As long as we declare.
that was the guidance from the Ethics Commission. So with that in mind, do we have a motion?
I move to accept the recommendation of the County Compensation Committee of a 3% cost of living increase and the appropriate salary schedule step increases for time served for county elected officials for the fiscal year coming up of 2019-2020.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the recommendation of the Gilliam County Compensation Committee of a 3% cost of living pay increase and appropriate salary schedule step increases for time served for county elected officials for fiscal year 2019-2020. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thanks for the raise.
Okay, we are moving right along to 7.5, which is Federal Lands Access Program Project Memorandum of Agreement and the Road Department. So
Do you want an explanation?
if you want to, tell us as much as
Okay.
you think we ought to know.
This was a grant that I applied for. It's a Federal Lands Access Grant. It's projects that help the public get to public lands. We had a couple of different options. The best option was the John Day River down on Lower Rock Creek. So I applied for a chip seal from the intersection of Cedar Springs and Lower Rock Creek, from there all the way to the bridge, and then a gravel rebuild of the road from the bridge to the South Park. We ran into some right-of-way issues with going to the North Park on the other end, with the way the county road was changed in the past. We really don't, that's really not our road. Our road goes through the alfalfa field, and it was just changed. It was just changed. It's money to the tune of $263,078 from the federal government.
60,000.
And we will provide the rock, the manpower, and the equipment to do the project. This will buy the chip seal oil, the fog seal material, the striping, and any signage that's needed.
Remind me, how much is our financial match?
It's 10%. Yes,
So
yes,
26,000.
yes, yes, yeah,
Oh, 26,879.65?
yeah.
In the right place.
That's on this form. If you look at the other forms, they have quite a bit of other stuff added in, but
They never do anything that simple, do
no,
they?
they don't. And the paperwork has continued to pile up. I actually got an email right prior to coming up here. Now they want to move the actual, they wanted it this week, but now they don't need it until 17th of
Okay,
the month, because the BLM people are not, they're out on vacation right now.
got it.
So we won't have assistance from BLM to sign their portion or to come do the review of the project.
Okay. So, and were there additional documents besides the memorandum of agreement?
Yeah, there was an additional cooperative agreement that they sent over yesterday.
Yes,
that-
cooperative agreement,
That basically spells out things like, if we have ever had a federal audit, if we've ever,
well, have we ever got over 500,000
Right.
from the federal government? It's just-
disclosures on,
Well, they want us
what I'm
to,
trying to think of.
yeah, they want to make sure that we're going to do all of the NEPA studies, archaeological, everything like that, which for the most part is just I have to document that the road is there. It's already been disturbed. There's no wetlands, there's no archaeological, there's no
Yeah.
bugs, critters, anything like that that's going to be disturbed on the project. Lots of photos before, during, and after. Lots of documentation, ton of paperwork.
Federal.
Yeah.
That reminds me of a question that I usually have after, when we are talking about getting federal money. Who is responsible when we do get federal grants for like the whole ensuring the drug-free workplace requirements, and who takes care of who takes care of that? And following up on making sure that's all.
That will all be documentation that I've already started, and I'll just do it with the project.
It'll just be part of the packet I have to hand to them.
Paperwork.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money though.
Huh?
It's a lot of money though.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Worth the paperwork?
It is. It is. It's a couple of days in the office.
And this other agreement that came in yesterday, we did send on to Ruben, and he signed off on it, says, okay, you just need to fill it out.
The memorandum of agreement, or both of them?
He's seen both of them.
Okay,
Yes.
I sent him the first one.
Yeah.
got it.
Begged him.
So I guess what I'm asking for is the court's approval to sign this, so when BLM does come, and they sign off on it, that we can pass it on to federal lands and at least get the ball rolling. Because it'd be nice to be able to do this project this summer. We'll be working in the area anyway and save a lot of money. Do it
Works with
all
your
at the same
schedule?
time.
Yeah.
So,
Does that mean you're gonna pave that portion of Rock Creek that I've been asking for the last 5 years? Dang it. Do we?
Next Wednesday I'll bring that up. Next Wednesday.
And then just right up to Chin's
Yes.
Yeah.
any questions for Dewey on this? Okay, then, is there a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement?
And I would just suggest that we pluralize the agreements, because there was 2 separate agreements.
So, okay.
Right.
Well, that just made, I thought I could do the motion before you said that.
And then it would just be also just an authorization to sign, because you don't want to sign something that says draft all over it
No,
until we get the,
right.
Yeah.
We'll
Which-
sign when everybody else signs.
Yeah, and, I mean, once you guys authorize that,
Didn't we authorize Dewey to sign, or we authorized you to sign? Okay.
but really, once you have approved it, you basically authorized me to sign it, so. So is there a motion, or do you want me to make the motion?
I'm kind of struggling.
Here, I'll make it.
Okay.
I move to approve the
Exactly.
the Federal Land Access Program Project Memorandum of Agreements for the road department. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Federal Land Access Program Project Memorandum of Agreements. Should I note this is for the Lower Rock Creek Lane project for the record? Is there further discussion?
Oh, I have a quick question. One of the things that I used to notice that Mike did all the time when he was making a motion or something was include dollar amounts. And I've probably asked that before, but is that important? Do we want to throw in monetary amounts, or is it just okay enough saying?
I mean, I think when you approve the agreement, it's in the agreement.
Yeah.
Where
I guess maybe he wanted it for minutes. Maybe that was
I was
possible.
gonna say,
for people
it sets it
to
in the
back and-
record.
Okay, that's just my question.
Would you like me to amend and include it? I'd be happy to.
Yes.
Okay. So I will do an amended motion that we approve the Federal Lands Access Program Project Memorandums of Agreements. This is for the Lower Rock Creek Lane project in the amount of $263,078.
$263,078.00.
Yeah,
$78.
$78. Sorry about that. $78. Okay.
And our match.
And with our match.
Or do you want to say, or do you want to include that Dewey, or do we say 10%, or do you think this dollar?
It's
Solid.
10% of the project.
So we'll
But
say.
the match will actually be in kind, so there'll be no dollars actually come out of,
No, that was my question when I asked the
Yeah.
question before about how much monetary.
oh, yeah, there'll be no dollars out of the Gilliam County budget. It will be
Better.
either in match of in-kind work, in-kind materials,
Okay,
or
perfect.
labor, so, equipment.
Okay, with a 10.27% match from the county. We'll just keep it,
In kind of match.
okay.
Say that.
I'm just gonna leave it broad. Let's leave it. It's on the record.
Specific.
That's
Technical.
that's the same match as we have on the Lone Rock Bridge
Right,
replacement, and that will be handled that same way.
An amended
We'll supply
That is an
equipment,
amended
material,
motion.
and
An
then
amendment to the motion.
Yeah.
I second the amended emotion.
Amended emotion. Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we approve the Federal Lands Access Program Project Memorandum of Agreements. This is for the Lower Rock Creek Lane project in the amount of $263,000, $263,078 with a 10.27% match from the county. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, moving on, 7.6, this was an addition, was the Grain Lab temporary lease, and I will turn that over to Commissioner Milken.
I had a
Milkins. Milkins.
And about as Judge DeBulks is what it says on there. I had a communication from Peter Mitchell regarding the potential for a lessee for the grain lab. And it's a hemp processor who has leased the Flex building, and they're looking to, what they need is a temporary facility while they're building something that will actually meet their needs. Peter, you're up.
So just, there have been several people that we have gone and shown them the grain lab as a potential building that they could rent. And this last group, they are hemp processors, are also interested in having the port build a facility for them as well. This is a different outfit from the people that are renting the Flex building. So we've had enough interest that I thought it'd be good to ask the question, is the county court interested in leasing, renting out the grain lab to a hemp outfit? And they would be looking to process their hemp, they're making CBD oil out of it on a small scale. And, that's, I guess, really the question.
Did they give you a timeline of how
Well,
long
they're
they might be
really
interested?
looking for something
They
fairly
want-
quickly, and, for us to build a building, it's
Yeah.
a minimum of maybe 8 months to a year to get it done, and, it's,
Any problem with the EDA renting for this particular purpose?
well, this is, Sandy and I have talked about this a little bit now. Hemp is federally been legalized now, so we don't anticipate that, but
We don't know until we ask them.
Right.
that's, that's where that's the ask or the question.
And I guess my question then for the court is, if we were interested in this, what type of dollars would we be looking at for the lease? What is the building costing us now to keep it alive? And what are your feelings?
Yeah, I think, look, we definitely want to look into it. Having somebody in there temporarily is better than
Better
not
than
at all.
nothing, yes.
And it seemed like we had a formula for how much to charge people the last time that we looked at somebody renting. And I don't know what it is. But we had figured out, we had a,
Really?
a calculation for that. Yes,
Do you think that the treasurer might have?
that's very possible.
Okay.
Okay, I will talk to the treasurer. How soon did you think, did you just want to put them in contact with us, or do you want to continue to be the middleman?
I'm more than happy to run it through, and some of this, part of my role is to make sure all the we have to get with Michelle in the planning department and make sure, we've gone through that step, and we've got to get with EDA. So there's a lot of things we have to run down before we can do that. Of course, getting a rent rate out. There's been rents I've been given from the court on past prospects that we've run through there. And it really, we don't have many buildings that we can rent out, so
Right. Well,
they
we're
get
tired of
filled
that
up
one
pretty
being
quick.
empty.
What's that?
We're tired of that one being empty.
Well, yeah, well, we brought you a couple prospects.
Yeah. Prior courts.
So would you like to take the lead?
Yes, I would be happy to work with Peter and Sandy and get some of these issues ironed out as fast as we can, and give you the authorization to do what we need to do to try to make it happen.
So then, is the court authorizing you to set the rate?
Well, we'll do this, we need to do the,
But, well,
you know,
that may be another session.
I mean, I don't know that
Gotta
it's-
approve a
We could,
contract.
I mean, is April 17th the next meeting too late to bring it back to us? And
No,
No.
it'll be fine.
yeah. And it'll take that much time to get with EDA and
Oh,
do all the things we need to
Oh,
do to
yeah.
figure out if we're
Hopefully.
gonna, yeah.
That could take a year.
So, yeah, so we'll try to plan to have answers for some of these questions at the April 17th meeting.
Yeah, if you'll take
Rates and,
the lead on that, I would love it.
get that building rented.
yes.
Love it. Okay. Anything else on the Green Lab? Good for now? Okay.
So something else that we were going to talk about was this. We didn't
So, this is, you know what, I will add this under my court reports, actually. Let's do court reports and start with Leslie.
Oh,
Unless you-
I wish I had.
Do you want Sherry to go first so you can
Look at
collect
your new
yourself?
book. Tell everybody about your new book.
No, I'm kidding. I got a new book, so I can be more organized and not have all the slips of paper, possibly. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
start.
I'm not sure it's gonna.
I know, it's probably not gonna work. Okay, so,
Somebody's-
I was supposed to talk to Dewey after the last meeting and discuss the question of lane dividers out on Cedar Springs Lane. And I did speak with him at the railroad crossings. So I did speak with him. He basically confirmed my suspicion that it would be a maintenance nightmare. And expensive, and all the other reasons why it probably wasn't a great idea. And then in the meantime, of course, I saw the flyer distributed by Waste Management that said Gilliam County and Watco have designed a strategy and lane dividers will be installed. So I was a little kind of like, what? So I forwarded that to Dewey and said, he goes, I'll take care of that. So I think he tried to get a hold of somebody Monday, but he will follow up on that and talk to them and say, no.
Yeah, because Watco did come in and talk, and Sandy and I were in there, and they had pitched that idea. But I think we basically said that would be something we would need to take to the court, so,
I think they kind of jumped the gun a little bit.
yeah.
The other thing I think I
Can I
did.
comment on that? real quick?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
if it's an
I would
issue,
like to.
why isn't law enforcement being asked to monitor?
Well, and that was something that we did bring up, that would be a way to get people to quit maybe, or at least think about it a little bit
So if you want
before.
to spend the money.
So at the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, which I will report on, when Leslie's finished, I can answer some of your questions of what was said.
It was discussed. Yes, because I've heard that idea from several people too. Okay, so the last little thing I have, other than the fact that I got to go on vacation and it was wonderful. Get away.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for getting me out of here. I went to a Lower John Day Area Commission on Transportation meeting, and it was my first one in, I don't know, 15 years or so. I used to go with the city, when I worked with the city, but it's been a long time, so I got to attend one of those. It was in Morrow. I was disappointed it wasn't at Bob's Texas T-Bone anymore, but had to drive to Morrow to their fancy new courthouse. And I thought it was really good. I was worried about if I just was gonna, if a lot of it was gonna be transportation talk that was above my pay grade. But I did, most of it I did understand what they were talking about. And I felt good being there because one of the things that we took care of while I was there is they had 6 projects that were stiff discretionary project applications, and they wanted the acts, all of the acts in the state to weigh in on them because there's like $11 million available. And so anyway, so they wanted our comments on the 6 projects, and I became very vocal at that point and was like, Gilliam County, yay, that's the ones we want to rank
Oh,
first.
good. Good.
And I didn't have much trouble saying that. And then the other ones I was kind of like, well, that one, that's not even really us, and that's, you know.
What projects did we have in there?
And Marla went, which I was glad she was there, and I had meant to ask her, does she attend these? And she says in the past she has not, but I'm thinking she should start.
Okay.
So one of them was the Gilliam County Transportation Developing Staff and Drivers. So it's a project amount of $127,910. It says that the county currently operates demand response service in Gilliam County for residents needing travel around the region. The drivers are unpaid volunteers. This project proposes a pilot stipend program for their volunteer drivers to help build towards paid drivers in the future. The Transportation Department also proposes to increase the administrative capacity by increasing dispatcher staffing from 0.5 FTE to 1 full FTE, and is seeking funds for the 1 FTE. Lastly, the Transportation Department also proposes to provide a regular inter-community route linking Arlington and Condon to the Dalles and Hermiston. So that was one of them. And then this other one we had on the list was Fleet for the Future. That was the name of our project. $157,500. Transportation Department requests funding to right-size/replace 3 SUV-type vehicles, upgrading our fleet with larger vehicles that offer additional seating to accommodate 6 rather than 4 individuals. Given ride demand, the Transportation Department will keep one of the current vehicles as a spare to alleviate ride shortages. Applicant also seeks funding to cover preventative maintenance costs for these vehicles. So I was very impressed. She's going after money. The only other thing, local really, was Wheeler County, and they were asking for $35,000 for some administrative expenses. So. And then she was there to answer questions when they had a couple questions. And I just thought it was really good, and I was glad that I had attended so I could advocate for us and say, yeah, we want those. We want to rank these really high, very high, the highest.
Number 1, number 2.
Number 1 and number 2. And yeah, so it was good.
Awesome.
Good.
It was very fun. I was very excited.
It's always good when you're excited about a meeting.
Yes.
I was also excited to get to be the Citizens Advisory Council's representative.
I was excited for you.
Thank you. Some of the things discussed were this bright idea with the dividers, and Dewey Kennedy, of course, is on the board as well, and we told them at that time that that was not going to be feasible. And we were not sure why it was in their employee newsletter that was happening, because it was not happening. Some of the suggestions were to put signage at the crossings telling the people that that is a federal offense to go through the arms and that they would be prosecuted. I don't know what the answer is. The answer is, and then Waste Management also wanted the county to build a new road to bypass all those crossings. Waste Management apparently wants to fund a new road. Anyway, Dewey also discussed the leaking gondolas that he had seen on the train that was coming into the site on that day. So Mr. Anderson said that there were they were trying to put some ideas in place to tarp and to line the gondolas and to tarp them, which isn't, they're not inventing the wheel, those do exist. And Rich Harper asked about the Arlington Medical Center issue and why it was still unresolved, and we didn't get much of an answer for that. Rich did ask why they were utilizing the Boardman facility as opposed to the Condon Medical facility, and so we didn't get much of an answer there, but apparently the sign at the dumpsters that says, we do not accept tires was misleading, because Waste Management still accepts tires, they just don't want anybody to throw them in the dumpsters. So we asked them to please change their signage and to put some type of article in the Times Journal and maybe some posters around so that people that do use the facility understand where to put their tires, and maybe even put some signage out there that says, please put your tires here, instead of just saying we don't take tires, because they do. There was a question about the discarded ties that are still laying along the spur since the fire burned out and they replaced them. And Mr. Anderson was asked to get a hold of Watco and please clean up the mess. So we'll see what happens there. They are working on permits for composting yard debris and food waste, just as a backup for the Seattle location that actually is doing that now, because they're required to have a backup, and so that was what their permitting is about. And Mr. Harper asked about the Waste Management conditional use permit and why it was still expired. And Michelle and I assured him that we would be.
Well, I think what they.
Right, it's not expired.
They just submitted it a long time ago.
It just hasn't been.
Well, we've never done
updated.
it.
It's
It
still
needs to be
active.
updated.
Right.
Well, is it?
But they're not working without a permit. They have a permit.
Yeah. But it's supposed to be reviewed.
Right. No, I agree.
And
I
nothing's
just
been done.
don't want
Nothing's
people to
been
think they
done.
aren't permitted. They
No,
are.
no. True. And I guess that was it.
You know, that reminded me of two things. Can you jump back to me for a sec?
Yes.
Okay, so when you were talking about the crossings and the dividers and all that stuff, I did forget that this quote from the newsletter says, Watco has agreed to clear crossings more frequently, such that cars waiting on Cedar Springs will be allowed to pass more frequently, thus reducing delays. So that's in their
So we'll
newsletter.
see what
I don't know
happens.
if it's happening yet, but they said they were going to.
And I believe they said that when they were meeting with
Right, but-
us too.
But is that predicated on the idea that we were going to put in dividers?
Well, I don't think one has anything to do with the
I
other
don't either.
specifically, because the dividers are just to keep people from
It's just say,
illegally jumping through the crossings when the arms are still down. That's the only purpose for those dividers.
Right, but when we spoke with Watco, one of the reasons that they gave for not clearing it as often was that people were going around. And so they were making a conscious choice for safety to often keep the road blocked rather than to break the train and see people go around the dividers.
So they were purposely holding people up because as soon as they break the train, people were.
well, maybe there's other ways to get them not to do that, like the signage that you were talking about.
Or the sheriff's office. Gary's willing to have somebody out there occasionally. They may just not, you know.
Yeah,
Spot checking.
it's sometimes just by the presence, you know.
It scares me.
But I did talk to Dewey beforehand. I said, you know, just some signs and then us being out there. Try that, but I don't see why Watco, Waste Management, us can't come up with some kind of a time. It seems workable, but
Yeah.
we'll do our part.
The trains are
Thank
very unpredictable. And when we were there for CAC, they were actually had 3 trains in the yard, which is one of the, we thought having the extra spur was gonna help, but there's so much more now that's part of the issue too, is there isn't any track space.
So I called him and talked to him about the windmill parts that came in and how long they had the interstate blocked off. And he said of course, this is something they should also relay beforehand,
Yeah.
that within a couple minutes, they can have the train broke apart because they keep people stationed there and let emergency vehicles through or whatever. So, I mean, they can break a train apart pretty quickly. So maybe we need some assurances from them that if there is an emergency, that they can assure at least the citizens who live on the other side that they can be gotten
The train,
to by
yeah.
emergency.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more communication and open communication between Waste Management and Watco and the community. I think that's lacking. Putting an employee newsletter out that has inaccurate information isn't helping us any either, so.
Yes. Oh, the other thing I thought that was interesting after hearing your comments about your CAC meeting was about the clinic. And I just happened to be finding out some information about how to get first aid, CPR, AED training, and found out that Waste Management is still using the clinic or still using, them to provide their
Good deal.
CPR training, but not the clinic. Yeah, and then the last thing, this is something else that I remembered, and I'll do better when I have my book. We have a new vacancy on the road committee. So I'm just wondering about what's the process for filling that? Do we do the notices again or?
It sounded, weren't there a number of people
Yes.
up in his district that,
There,
Mr. Wright's district that would,
well, I don't know what district.
well,
He was City of Arlington, wasn't he? Wasn't that his?
Oh, I know one person.
Well, it's not city, it's the northeast
we gave him. the northeast
quadrant of the
quadrant.
county.
Northeast quadrant.
But I think, we've shown we would be a little bit flexible if there's someone from the north end that wants to serve. So I would suggest that we advertise it again and make sure that we're posting.
Right, in
Right there.
its location so they can see.
And then,
So it would have to be somebody from that district that we designated.
I mean, that would be
Preferably.
preferably, if we can't find somebody, at least somebody preferably from the north end, I would say.
Okay.
Because we actually kind of stretched to claim him in that district, because he actually lived on the other side of the line,
Technically, but
But
kind
north
of,
end?
wrong side of Highway 19.
yeah.
Yeah, we're thinking north. end.
Technically it's 19, that's the boundary, but if you find somebody on the other side of it,
I've
That would
heard
be a
from,
good one.
I've heard from somebody, I could tell them that they should watch for the notice.
okay. That would, we would advertise it and bring it back to the court to approve.
Yeah, sounds good.
Any other, Sherry?
No.
That's it? Okay. Let me see what I got. So first, Eastern Oregon Counties Association. We have not been paying dues to them, that I can see.
For how long?
For several years at least.
We haven't actually been a member.
Of AOC?
No.
EOCA.
Yeah, Eastern
Sorry,
Oregon
I
Counties
just-
They
Association.
like to send us all their information and invite us to their meetings.
Exactly. So the question was, do we want to be a
I was
member?
gonna say, did we do that on purpose and just didn't tell them?
It's $2,600 yearly. My own personal feeling
Yeah.
on it is that I think a lot of their push, a lot of the counties are, they're sort of a lot of forestry, so a lot of their issues maybe are not necessarily the things that we
Wolves.
would need. Yeah. Wolves, payment in lieu of taxes, HILT funds, those kinds of things, which we have a very small amount because we don't have that much federal land in the county. So a lot of their big issues are not necessarily the things that we aren't really that engaged in as a county, because we just don't have the federal footprint in our county that some of these guys do. So I didn't feel like it was necessarily worth our time and investment, and I feel like AOC is probably the better body for us Yeah, and a little bit broader reach. And so, but I wanted to raise it, and especially since we're in budget season, because it wasn't budgeted. So I would need to go back and add money in if this was something we wanted to do. But
Do they want us, even, I mean, knowing that we don't have exactly the same type of issues, do they want us to join so we can just support them?
I mean, I'm sure they would love to have our dues, for sure.
Well, I mean, not issues, I mean, I was thinking, say.
It would add another county to their list of counties.
Mhm. But it's just really, if we, you know,
Did you see who they sent the bill to?
they sent it to you.
Took me a while before I opened it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bill. I don't want this.
So, anyway, thoughts on this? We don't have to decide it today because it wasn't on here, but if this was something that we thought we wanted, that I need to just make sure it gets in the budget. We can decide at the budget committee even, if you want to just take it home and think about
That
it.
would be good.
I'd
Wanna
like
do
to
that?
email them and tell them to take me out of their group.
You don't want to see all the emails?
I spend an awful lot of time deleting those.
The reply, I know, I emailed her and said, could you just BCC everybody, please?
It's ridiculous.
Anyway, okay, so what I will do is I will flag this for Nathan, and next week's budget committee, we can go back and decide if this is something we want to stick. Okay, so, tomorrow we have our listening session for the juvenile court in Arlington. I just wanted to give you a heads up that the circuit court was invited to that, and I believe they will be there. Judge Wolf, I think, is going to come, and then Angie. Angie's last name just slipped my mind.
It just did mine too.
The court administrator for the circuit court. And so they would be there to answer any questions that we would have in terms of scheduling and how that would be handled if cases are, if the jurisdiction is permanently handed over, what that would look like. And if we just have any general questions. They will not be advocating, I should just put on the record, one way or another. They're totally neutral. They're there to be a resource for us if that's the way that we want to go, but they won't be advocating one way or the other, obviously. So anyway, wanted to put that on there. The other thing, just to flag, is that there is a bill moving through the legislature right now that would double the 911 tax. And so I just wanted to kind of flag that. It's having a hearing, I believe, tomorrow. And I'm going to go online and see if there's testimony. They're allowing testimony, and if so, I'm planning on just submitting a letter from myself in my personal capacity, talking about from the position of being on the 911 board and how important that is to make sure that the taxes are keeping up. It has not been increased in, what, decades? Probably.
1980 something?
Yeah. So, so it would be a significant boost for like our PSAP if that came through. So it would be very important if they do pass that. So I just wanted to flag that for the public and let you guys know that I was planning on weighing in on the fire district employee update. So I talked to Ellen after our meeting, and she really did not have an interest, obviously, in adding an employee, and really, I don't think had an interest in even doing necessarily the payroll, because what it will require is she can't just run it through our regular payroll system. So it would require an additional subscription to Chavs and some additional things, and then also on the tax side for the fire district, they were going to need to do some different things in order for us to be able to handle that. So I'm still talking to Shannon about that. That's kind of where we are.
I can't believe that I did not think of it at the time, but after the meeting, someone had a suggestion to me, and I thought, gosh, why didn't I think of that? But just the possibility of them hiring a bookkeeper. You know, a lot of little entities around Arlington do it, the districts up there, you know, they just hire a bookkeeper to do their stuff, and you know, you usually get by with something pretty inexpensive.
At our meeting, we'll discuss contracting with Sharon.
Got it.
She actually suggested that she'll just stay on as the bookkeeper.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
yeah.
She
the
knows
board
how to-
hasn't discussed it,
She
but
knows how to do it already.
Yeah, that would be fabulous.
Other than that, wanted to let you know that I am participating in the City of Condon's Fiber Committee. I'm continuing to participate, and that we've sort of started the initial conversation about creating the county-wide one, and I've at least sort of pitched to the City of Condon's Fiber Committee that would maybe be a natural start for at least the members of the south end of the county. And we'll need to identify some folks in the north end who are interested in serving. So just wanted to that was one of our goals, so I wanted to flag that as we're starting to move forward and trying to recruit people to have an interest maybe. Let me see. Man, we're just right up on our edge, our 2 hour.
Oh my goodness.
I think that was all that I had for court reports. Let's go into announcements.
Can I go back really quick?
Sure.
To the legislation doubling the 911 tax.
Mhm.
I got something from LOC, from the League of Oregon Cities, and so I contacted Representative Smith because that's who they wanted me to contact.
Mhm.
Would it be helpful to give the letter that I sent him about how important it is here to you, or to send to someone else? He's on the committee. So what's your recommendation of that email to him of basically, we're in support of this, we hope you vote yes?
Did you already send it to him?
I sent it to him last week.
If you could send me the copy, I'll be at AOC next
Oh,
week,
okay.
and I was planning on stopping in and talking to some folks while I'm in
And he
town.
responded, so I'll send you just his response also. too.
That'd be great,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you have a number of that bill?
I don't with me, but I can
I
find it
thought
for
it
you.
was 41 something.
I'll find it in my email, not off the top of my head, but I found it,
seems like I remember 2440.
yeah.
There's too many bills this year.
There's a lot, yeah.
Forward to
So,
John,
and
forward to Liz, I'll forward to you.
Okay.
announcements. So we've got our listening session.
So listening session tomorrow evening, 6 PM at the Ronquist Building about juvenile court operations. Next Wednesday, 8 AM, Budget Committee meeting number 2, Budget meeting number 3 on Thursday if necessary. On the 17th at 1 o'clock, the SWCD building tour, followed by regular court meeting at 3 o'clock at the courthouse. April 24th, 10 AM, Tri-County Court in Sherman County. May 1st, there'll be county court meeting where we will have the budget hearing. And then also on May 1st, and that'll be starting at 3 PM. And then also at May 1st, we're going to have the second listening session on the juvenile issues. What time do we want to start that?
Probably 5. Did that work for you guys? We do court at 3. And we might have a short break, and then at 5 people can come after work. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay,
Give me a
so
short
on
break.
May 1st,
Short break.
court at 3, listening session at 5. And then on May 15th, our regular court meeting, there is a circuit court trial scheduled, so we need a different location for that day.
This works pretty good.
Yeah. I think emergency services, if it's available, is, yeah.
Okay, so tentatively right here.
Okay. And Sandy's just gone over next meeting stuff. Any other announcements? Oh, the Frontier Telenet budget hearing is this Friday at the courthouse at 10 AM. And the budget is online if folks want to review it. And then the 16th is Frontier 911. That board is meeting, and that will be a budget hearing as well on the 16th. Mac?
I just saw, came rather unofficially of a meeting that you may be interested in of the Sherman County Court work session with Day Wireless people about fiber. And I was just gonna look here, but it seems to me like it's this Friday.
I remember seeing it, where did it come through? Came through Sherry Caseburg's.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I don't know if I may have already deleted it.
This Friday?
I'm thinking, I'm looking here now.
In the afternoon. Let's just skip the budget.
When, Friday or Thursday?
Is it April 4th, the Sherman County work session?
That's it, April 4th, that's tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh, Thursday, okay.
9 AM. To discuss the rural, wireless, and dark fiber regarding furniture settlement. Interesting.
Might go over to that.
Yeah, I thought it was curious that there's been no other official announcement of that meeting yet that I've received.
I had not heard that they were holding one. First
Now,
to
that
do.
is interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting. Okay, any other announcements for the good of the order? Meetings that are coming up, and then we covered our next meeting will be, well, our work session will be tomorrow night, our listening session. And then the next budget meeting is, of course,
That's at 5 or 6?
I believe 6.
Okay, that's what I had written down.
Yes.
Wow, is that right?
We'll call you if you're late.
Mhm.
Okay, any other business?
These dollar store pencils are just.
Okay.
Oh, hey, if you're bringing, thank you, Sherry, if you're bringing a neighbor for Sherry tomorrow,
Would you like me to bring some for you?
Can
Put
bring me
together
some
a
lead.
wrap-up of your
Yes.
I haven't.
I can give you.
But I
Okay.
need to.
Let me adjourn. I'm going to adjourn
Yes,
the
yes,
meeting.
yes.